Welcome to the Cenario Podcast, your guide to mental health and well-being. Each episode, we uncover practical tools, discuss expert insights, and explore how supplements can transform your mental health journey. Get ready to learn, grow, and thrive with us.
Hey, everyone. Sometimes life can feel a bit overwhelming, right? Like things just feel off-kilter emotionally.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's totally normal to feel that way sometimes. And actually, that's what we're going to be talking about today.
Okay.
It's this idea of emotional distress, which, it's not something we always talk about openly.
Right.
But it's something that I think affects pretty much everyone at some point.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So we're going to do a deep dive into this topic, and we're going to be using this really helpful resource that you shared with us called Emotional Distress: Causes, Signs, and How to Cope.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's really comprehensive, and our goal here is to kind of unpack what emotional distress actually is,
Right.
where it comes from, how it can show up in our lives, and most importantly, what we can actually do about it.
Exactly.
So let's start with the basics. What exactly is emotional distress? How can we define it?
Well, you can think of it as like a state of being where you're really experiencing significant mental suffering or anguish. And it can be triggered by things that are going on inside of us, struggles, things like self-doubt or worry, that kind of thing.
Right.
Or it can be a response to stuff that's happening around us,
Yeah.
external pressures, like difficult life events, even traumatic things. And what's interesting here is that while emotional distress in itself is not a specific medical diagnosis, it can often be a sign that there might be something else going on.
Okay, like a bigger...
Yeah, like maybe there's an underlying mental health condition like anxiety or depression or even grief after you've lost somebody. So it can be a bit of a warning sign.
Right, so it's more of a general term,
Yeah.
right, than like a specific diagnosis.
Exactly.
Now, the document also mentioned a legal term, and I thought this was interesting. It's called intentional infliction of emotional distress.
Yeah.
And that sounds pretty serious, right?
Mm.
So how does that legal term relate to the kind of everyday emotional distress that we're talking about?
So in the legal world, that term, intentional infliction of emotional distress, it refers to actions that someone does on purpose to really cause harm to another person. And the courts, they really focus on the intent of the person who's doing the harming.
Right.
So the big difference here is that the everyday emotional distress, the stuff that we're talking about, that may not involve someone intentionally trying to hurt us, but it can still have a huge impact on us.
Totally.
So the pain is real in both cases, but the context and the cause can be quite different.
Okay. That makes sense. So it's about the intent.
Yeah.
And it's about that impact on the person, regardless of whether someone meant to cause it or not.
Right.
Okay. So one thing that really stood out to me in this document was the idea that emotional distress is not just in our heads, right? It's actually a whole body experience. So can you elaborate on that mind-body connection a little bit?
Oh, for sure. So our minds and bodies, they're not separate entities.
Right.
And when we experience emotional distress, that communication can get a little wonky. So think about stress hormones like cortisol. They're like these little chemical messengers that are zipping back and forth between our brain and our body. And when we're stressed or distressed, those messengers can go into overdrive and they start affecting different parts of our body. So, for example, you might find yourself getting tension headaches or just feeling exhausted all the time, even if you're sleeping enough. And the document lists a bunch of other physical symptoms that can be linked to emotional distress. Things like digestive issues, stomach problems, even chronic illnesses can be made worse by stress. So it's important to listen to your body. Those aches, those pains, those weird twinges, they might be trying to tell you something.
Right, like our body's giving us a signal that something's not quite right. Okay, so we've talked about what emotional distress is, that mind-body connection, but let's get into the why. What are some of the common things that can actually cause emotional distress, according to the document?
Well, the document lays out a bunch of potential triggers, and it makes it clear that emotional distress, it's rarely caused by just one thing. It's usually a combination of factors.
Right.
So let's start with major life events. These are the biggies, right?
Yeah.
The things that can really shake up our world. We're talking about stuff like the death of a loved one, or a divorce, or a big move, or maybe losing your job or retiring.
Right.
These transitions, even the positive ones, they can be super stressful.
Yeah, they really throw you off balance.
Yeah, exactly. And then on top of that, you've got everyday pressures.
Okay.
Like work stress. I mean, who hasn't felt that? It could be that you're working crazy long hours, you've got these unrealistic expectations at work, or maybe you're worried about losing your job. And then there's the whole thing about conflict with coworkers.
Yeah, or just feeling like you don't have a purpose in your work.
Absolutely. And that lack of purpose can be a real downer.
Totally.
And then there's relationship stress.
Absolutely.
Our relationships with our friends and family, they can be our greatest source of support. But when those relationships are strained, it can be really tough.
It's really hard.
Yeah, we're talking about things like toxic relationships. Maybe you're feeling emotionally abused, or there's been a betrayal of some kind.
Yeah.
Maybe infidelity, or you're constantly fighting with someone you care about.
Right.
Or even that feeling of being neglected or unappreciated by the people who are supposed to be closest to you.
Yeah, those are all really tough situations to be in.
They are. And then, we can't forget about money problems.
Oh, yeah?
Financial stress is a huge source of emotional distress for so many people. It could be that you're drowning in debt, or maybe you got hit with some unexpected bills.
Right.
You're worried about making rent or putting food on the table.
Yeah.
Or maybe you're living paycheck to paycheck and there's just no breathing room.
That constant worry is exhausting.
It really is.
Okay, so we've got these big life events, workplace stress, relationship issues, financial worries. What about our physical health?
Yeah. Health issues can also play a big role.
Okay.
If you're dealing with a chronic illness or you've just been diagnosed with something serious, that can be incredibly distressing.
Right. It affects you both physically and emotionally.
Totally. And then there's the stress of managing a mental health condition. That's an ongoing battle for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And we also need to consider the emotional toll of caring for someone else who's sick.
Right. That can be really tough.
It can be really, really hard.
Okay. And the document also mentioned trauma and abuse, which is obviously a very sensitive topic.
It is.
But important to talk about.
Absolutely, because unresolved trauma can have a huge impact on our emotional well-being.
Yeah.
We're talking about things like childhood abuse, neglect, or maybe you were in an accident or a natural disaster.
Right.
Or you witnessed violence or experienced it yourself. These experiences, they can leave lasting emotional scars.
Okay.
And it's important to address those scars if we want to heal.
Yeah, and it's important to remember that trauma can affect people in different ways, right?
Absolutely. And it's not always obvious.
Yeah.
Sometimes it shows up years later.
Yeah,
and
okay.
sometimes it manifests in ways that you wouldn't expect.
Okay, and finally, the document talks about internal struggles. So what kinds of things fall into that category?
These are the battles that we fight within ourselves. Things like low self-esteem.
Okay.
That nagging feeling of not being good enough.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's shame about something that happened in the past.
Right.
Or maybe it's this constant striving for perfection. That can actually be really paralyzing.
Right.
Or the fear of failure.
Yeah.
That fear of rejection, which can prevent us from doing things that we really want to do.
Totally.
And then there's overthinking.
Oh, yeah.
Getting stuck in these negative thought loops that just go round and round.
Right.
All of these internal struggles, they can cause a lot of emotional pain.
They really can.
Yeah.
It's like we're our own worst critics sometimes.
Oh, absolutely.
So we've looked at a bunch of potential causes of emotional distress, both external things that are happening around us and those internal struggles that we all deal with.
Right.
But how can we recognize when we or someone we care about might be experiencing emotional distress? What are the signs and symptoms to look out for?
Well, the document does a really good job of breaking down these symptoms into 3 categories. So there are the emotional symptoms, the physical symptoms, and the behavioral symptoms. And this makes it a little easier to spot the signs. So let's start with the emotional signs.
Okay.
It could be feeling sad or hopeless. Maybe you're experiencing a lot of anxiety.
Yeah.
You're having panic attacks.
Right.
You just feel restless all the time.
Okay.
And then there's mood swings,
Yeah.
1 minute you're up, the next minute you're down. And then there's irritability,
Yeah.
You just feel like everything's bugging you.
Right.
And then there's the opposite of that,
Okay.
which is emotional numbness.
Right.
You just feel detached
Yeah.
from everything. And then, of course, there's crying.
Mm-hmm.
You just feel like you're on the verge of tears all the time.
Right.
Or maybe you just burst into tears for no reason. And then there's that feeling of just being completely overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Like you just can't cope.
Those all sound like really challenging emotions to deal with.
Oh, they are.
What about the physical symptoms that we touched on earlier?
Yeah, so as we mentioned before, the mind and body are connected.
Right.
So when you're emotionally distressed, it can manifest physically as well.
Okay.
You might get tension headaches or migraines. Your muscles might feel really tight.
Okay.
You might have chest pain,
Right.
or you might even injure yourself because you're so stressed out.
Wow.
And a lot of people experience digestive issues,
Okay.
nausea, stomach cramps, constipation, diarrhea, that kind of thing.
Okay.
And then there's sleep problems.
Mm.
Either you can't sleep,
Right.
or you sleep too much.
Right.
And then there's fatigue.
Yeah.
You just feel drained all the time. And then there's changes in appetite.
Okay.
You either lose your appetite or you start eating more than usual.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like your body's trying to cope in different ways.
Exactly. And sometimes those coping mechanisms aren't very healthy.
Right.
Yeah. And then in terms of behavioral symptoms, well, you might notice that someone who's emotionally distressed is starting to withdraw from their friends and family.
Yeah.
They might not want to socialize as much, or maybe they're not doing as well at work or school.
Okay.
Their grades are slipping, or they're missing deadlines at work.
Right.
Maybe they're just not as productive as they used to be.
Okay.
They might be avoiding their responsibilities.
Yeah.
They're procrastinating more than usual. And unfortunately, sometimes people turn to unhealthy coping mechanisms.
Right.
Like using drugs or alcohol to numb the pain.
Mm.
And in some cases, they might even engage in risky or self-destructive behaviors.
Okay. So those are all important things to be aware of, both in ourselves
Right.
and in the people that we care about.
Absolutely.
So we've identified the problem.
Yeah.
We've looked at potential causes.
Right.
We've looked at the symptoms. But now let's talk about the solution. What can we do about it? What are some practical strategies for coping with emotional distress, according to the document?
Well, the first thing the document emphasizes is the importance of acknowledging your feelings.
Okay.
A lot of us, we try to push down those uncomfortable emotions. We
Yeah.
try to pretend they're not there.
Mm-hmm.
But the truth is, the more we resist them, the stronger they become.
Okay.
So the first step is to simply acknowledge what you're feeling.
So just name it.
Exactly. Okay, I'm feeling anxious right now.
Yeah.
Or this is grief that I'm feeling.
Right.
And just by naming it, you can start to take away some of its power.
Wow. That's really interesting. So just that simple act of acknowledging what you're feeling
Yeah.
can actually be really helpful.
It can. It's like you're taking a step back from
Yeah.
the emotion and you're observing it rather than being completely consumed by it.
Okay. And what are some other techniques that we can use to help us manage those difficult emotions?
Yeah. Well, the document talks about grounding techniques
Okay.
and deep breathing exercises.
Okay.
And these can be really helpful for calming down your nervous system when you're feeling overwhelmed.
Right.
So, for example, there's a technique called square breathing.
Okay.
And it's really simple. You just inhale for a count of 4,
Mm-hmm.
hold your breath for a count of 4,
Okay.
exhale for a count of 4,
Mm-hmm.
and then hold your breath again for a count of 4. And
Yeah.
you just repeat that cycle a few times.
Okay. That sounds easy enough.
Yeah.
And what about those grounding techniques? What are those all about?
So grounding techniques are basically ways to bring yourself back to the present moment
Okay.
when your mind is racing.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a really simple one that the document mentions called the 5-4-3-2-1 technique.
Okay.
And you just go through your senses.
Okay.
So you start by noticing 5 things that you can see,
Okay.
4 things that you can touch, 3 things that you can hear, 2 things that you can smell,
Okay.
and 1 thing that you can taste.
Wow. That sounds really interesting.
Yeah, it's a great way to kind of anchor yourself to the present moment and to get out of your head.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So we've got breathing exercises, grounding techniques. What about talking to someone about how we're feeling?
Oh, yeah. Talking to someone you trust, that's a huge one.
Okay.
Whether it's a friend, a family member, a partner, just sharing your feelings can be incredibly therapeutic.
Right. It helps you feel less alone.
It does. It reminds you that you're not going through this alone.
Yeah.
And sometimes just having someone listen to you
Mm-hmm.
without judgment
Right.
can be really healing.
Absolutely.
And of course, if you're really struggling, there's no shame in seeking professional help.
Right.
Talking to a therapist can give you the tools
Mm-hmm.
and the support that you need to manage your emotional distress.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the document also talks about lifestyle changes. specifically limiting substances that can affect our mood.
Yes, because certain things, like caffeine,
Okay.
alcohol, and sugar,
Yeah.
they can actually make your emotional distress worse.
Oh, okay.
You know, they might give you a temporary boost,
Mm-hmm.
but in the long run, they can mess with your energy levels,
Right.
your sleep,
Yeah.
your mood.
So it's all about moderation.
Absolutely.
Okay. What about exercise?
Oh, yeah. Exercise is amazing for emotional well-being.
Okay.
It releases endorphins, which have mood-boosting effects,
Mhm.
and it helps to lower those stress hormones.
Yeah.
And the great thing is, it doesn't have to be anything crazy intense.
Right.
You know, it could be a walk in nature,
Okay.
some yoga, dancing around your living room,
Sure.
whatever gets you moving.
Yeah. That's a good reminder that it doesn't have to be a huge commitment.
Exactly.
Okay. And what about self-care? How does that fit into the picture?
Oh, self-care is essential for managing emotional distress.
Okay.
And it's really about creating a routine
Mm-hmm.
that nourishes your mind, body, and soul.
Right.
So we're talking about things like getting enough sleep,
Okay.
eating nutritious foods, staying hydrated, doing things that you enjoy,
Right.
things that bring you joy and relaxation.
So things like reading,
Yeah,
listening to music,
absolutely.
spending time with loved ones, or being in nature.
Yes, anything that fills your cup.
That makes you feel good. Okay. And the document also mentions journaling. How can that be helpful?
Journaling can be a really powerful tool
Okay.
for processing your emotions
Okay.
and understanding yourself better.
Yeah.
When you write down your thoughts and feelings,
Yeah.
it helps you to make sense of what's going on inside.
Okay.
And it can also help you to identify patterns.
Right.
Maybe you notice that you always feel more stressed out
Mm-hmm.
on certain days of the week or after certain interactions.
Right. So you can start to see your triggers.
Exactly.
Okay. And the document also mentions natural supplements, which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah, so there are a number of natural supplements
Great.
that can be helpful for managing mood and stress.
Okay.
And the document lists a bunch of them.
Mm.
So there's ashwagandha, which is often used for stress and anxiety.
Okay.
Magnesium, which can help with relaxation and sleep.
Mm-hmm.
L-theanine, which is known for promoting calmness.
Okay.
SAM-E, which can be helpful for mood balance.
Okay.
Omega-3 fatty acids, which are important for brain health.
Right.
Rhodiola, which can help with energy and stress resilience.
Okay.
Vitamin D, which can affect mood, especially during the winter months.
Right.
And then there's B complex vitamins, which are essential for energy production and brain function.
Okay.
Now, it's really important to talk to your doctor before starting any new supplements.
Right.
Because they can interact with medications.
Mm.
And they might not be suitable for everyone.
Yeah. So definitely get professional advice.
Oh, yes.
Okay. And finally, the document talks about setting boundaries.
Oh, yeah. Boundaries are crucial
Okay.
for protecting your emotional well-being. It's about learning to say no that drain you.
Okay.
And it's about creating space
Mm-hmm.
for yourself to rest and recharge.
Yeah.
And it's also about protecting yourself
Okay.
from people or situations that are toxic.
Right. So you're not constantly giving away your energy.
Exactly. It's about preserving your emotional energy.
That makes a lot of sense. So we've talked about all these different coping mechanisms,
Mhm.
but at what point should someone seek professional help? When does it become more than just trying to manage it on your own?
Well, the document outlines a few key indicators that suggest it might be time to reach out to a therapist.
Okay.
So, if you're feeling distressed for more than 2 weeks, if your emotions are starting to interfere with your daily life,
Okay.
you're having trouble at work,
Like,
you're struggling in your relationships,
Mhm.
you just can't function the way you used to.
okay.
Or if you're having thoughts of harming yourself or suicide,
Right.
or if you find yourself increasingly relying on alcohol or drugs to cope,
Okay.
these are all red flags.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really important to reach out for help.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's important to remember that asking for help is not a sign of weakness.
Exactly.
It's actually a sign of strength.
It is.
Okay. So as we wrap up this deep dive into emotional distress,
Mm-hmm.
what are some of the key takeaways that you would like our listeners to remember?
Well, first of all, I think it's important to remember that emotional distress is a normal human experience.
Okay.
You're not alone if you're struggling with this.
Right.
And it's important to pay attention to the signals that your mind and body are sending you. Those symptoms are often trying to tell you that you need to take care of yourself.
Right.
And finally, navigating emotional pain, as difficult as it can be actually be an opportunity for growth.
Yeah. That's a really great point.
Yeah.
It's like we learn and we evolve through those challenges.
Absolutely.
So as we finish up, is there one small action that you would encourage our listeners to take after this deep dive? Something that they can do to start taking care of their emotional well-being?
Yeah, I would say just take a moment
Okay.
to reflect on all the different coping strategies that we've talked about and choose one that resonates with you.
Good.
Just one small thing that you can do today to nurture yourself.
Great advice.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for this insightful conversation. It's been really helpful.
You're welcome.
And to all our listeners out there, remember, you're not alone. And taking care of your emotional health is just as important as taking care of your physical health.
It is.
Until next time, take care.
Thanks for tuning in to the Cenario podcast. Don't forget to visit Cenario.com for more expert tips, articles, and supplements designed to support your mental health. If you enjoyed this episode, remember to subscribe and share it with a friend. Until next time, take care of yourself.